Hey y'all, this is AL Thick Madame, and this is going to be a review on Avengers Endgame. This is not the shirt that I wore yesterday when I went to go see the movie, but I actually have the shirt and it is this. I loved it. It's amazing. I didn't see anybody with it. And I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I went to the first showing. I got there super early. Had to be there for quite some time in order to go in and get the seats that were the ones that we wanted. So it was worth it in the end. Hopefully they're going to get a seating policy in place before summer's end, so we won't have to deal with all this stuff anymore. So let me go ahead and get this out the way. Spoiler alert. There are going to be several things that I mentioned within this video that is definitely a spoiler. And if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to be spoiled, go on ahead and exit this video right now. But I do appreciate you tuning in briefly. Anyway, let's get this started. So, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. And let's go on ahead and get it out of the way. Who died? Who gone forever? Is anybody gone forever? You know, let's just get the deaths out of the way, honey. So, as far as the people who passed away, were killed, are no longer with us for whatever reason before the snap, those people are indeed dead. But a lot of people speculate that a specific part that happened in this movie, which was Loki stealing a Tesseract, they're speculating that he actually might be alive on an alternate universe. So there are a lot of Loki fans out there, so he might be alive, but you know, just not with us. So yeah. Oh Lord, y'all. But everybody else is dead. Gamora is dead. She's gone, never coming back. Literally everybody who passed away, who died, who was killed before the snap, they are gone and not coming back. And like I said, the only way Loki is alive is if he is on an alternate universe, living out his life, because he was being old Loki when they were trying to retrieve the stones. So, let's see, what else I want to discuss. So let me try to do, because this is just off the cuff. This is nothing prepared or whatever. So I went scouring the internet trying to figure out what was going on at the end of the movie. I wanted to know. I knew there had to be some significance. A lot of people are like, oh, ain't nothing going on at the end of the movie. You ain't got to worry about that. Nobody got to look at nothing. I sat there and I waited because I'm like, okay, something got to be at the end. Y'all have been putting something at the end for the longest. So for those of you who have seen the movie but decided not to stay, and you don't know about this, what happened was, yes, there was nothing filmed, meaning there was no scene. There literally was no scene at all at the end, but you can hear somebody hammering away. I didn't know if it was a bell or somebody was hammering away at first, but it is indeed Tony Stark from when he was building his first Iron Man suit. So it's kind of an ode to what has been going on for a while, and it's kind of like, in a way, bringing a close to that chapter, because here we go, Tony is gone. He is gone. In their efforts to bring people back, he ultimately was the key to doing that, and what he did led to his demise. And his wife is okay with that. You know, she, of course, didn't want him to die, but he did something that needed to be done for the sake of mankind. I'll get into that a little bit later, I hope. So also, in reference to him, when his funeral happened, there was this little boy there, and people were looking like, okay, who is that? And they're saying it might be Iron Lad, and we might see something in future movies in reference to him. Because, just in case you didn't know, Iron Maiden made an appearance. He was working on something, and it was something for her, and she actually fought a little bit as well. So I was just like, wait a minute, when I saw her. So I was happy when Doctor Strange was introduced in this film, even though it was briefly. But when it was happening, you saw him like do this. And Tony was trying to figure out, like, okay, what is that about? Now, when I'm mentioning Doctor Strange, I'm talking about Doctor Strange from the time that he's actually in, like before the snap. And this is the Tony that is current day, not back in the day. So yeah, these two timelines are crossing over. And, I think I just said that wrong. My bad. What happened was everything eventually panned out with them getting the stones. They had to travel back in time, get the stones, and create another glove in order to do what they needed to do, which was do the same thing that Thanos, did. And while they were in the midst of doing that, they were in the middle of fighting, and he looks over at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange is like doing what he's doing, but then he like holds up his finger, and I'm like, okay, we remember there's only one way y'all gonna win this. And a lot of people are speculating that he knew what it meant, and I'm like, no, he didn't, because he asked him. There's one point in time in the movie where Tony asks him, is this gonna work? And he was like, if I tell you, it's not gonna happen. Whatever's supposed to happen is not gonna happen. So I'm like, Lord, oh gosh, y'all, my nerves were torn up. They were fighting, and it got to a point where, like I said before, they had gone back in time to various places where the stones were and gotten them and did what they needed to do, and they were trying to recreate the situation and make it go into their favor. And Thanos was just like, all right, he was able to get wind of what was going on, and he came to the future, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is too much Jesus. And they ended up all eventually fighting, and he got a hold of the glove. He was about to snap again, y'all. When I tell y'all, I was just like, don't nobody have time for this. How you gonna sit up here and have me in here in this movie, and I'm like, oh, the good guys are gonna win. Yes, the good guys are gonna win. No, and you got this man, that man got the glove on again. His hand was literally like this. All he had to do was move him. That's all. His hand was literally like this, and all he had to do was that. I was just like, y'all understand, I was holding my breath and everything. I was so tired in my spirit. Oh God. It was just too much, y'all. The fight, somebody timed the fight now. The last fight scene, somebody said it was 1 hour and 15 minutes. I was like, come on now, you lying. It was like, no, I timed it. Like, there are people who really, really, really are invested, and they're like, oh, okay. And like they sat up there and timed like all kinds of stuff. And I don't know what made them time that, but they said it was a literally 1 hour and 15 minute fight. And I was just like, what? Like, I can't, y'all. It's just too much. So, y'all, for everybody who loves Thor, you like how the actor himself looks, whether he has a beard or not, y'all, whether he has short hair, long hair, he can do no wrong. Well, in this movie, he did all the way wrong. All the way wrong. When he came on the screen, I said, oh. And I was so like, I was grossed out a little bit. Y'all, he was in his feelings Of course, because he felt as though it was his fault that they did not win the ultimate battle, war, all that stuff. And it led to Thanos winning. So he was in his feelings. He has been drowning his sorrows in beer. He looks terrible. He does not comb his hair. You can tell he doesn't really bathe. You can tell, or whatever it is that he does. You can tell he probably don't smell good. You can tell that just by looking at him. And he has worse than a beer belly. He looks beyond terrible. And he's drunk all the time. He makes an appearance every now and again at New Asgard, you know, which is the area where that lighthouse and all that stuff was. Y'all, terrible, terrible. He is, you can tell he's very much so angry. It's so bad to the point where he does not want anybody to mention Thanos' name in his presence, especially not in the place where he resides. So, you know, at one point in time, before they, you know, went and found the stones by jumping and going into this, I keep wanting to say vortex, but y'all know what I'm talking about, where they went in time, did that, you know, where Ant-Man was in. I don't know why I can't think of the name of it right now. It'll come to my mind. But anyway, before all this happened, they ended up trying to find out where Thanos was so that they could just, they felt like it would, the easier option would be to find him, get the stones, and do what they need to do. Maybe there's a way to do that. So they ended up finding what planet he was on, and they ended up having to do a space jump. Most of them had never been in space before, and of course, you know, Rocket was flying. He was the pilot. And since Captain Marvel made an appearance, she went down to survey the land to see who was there, you know, see what they were going to be up against. And Thanos was there all alone, chilling. Had on a regular little shirt and pants and looking all comfy and happy. He walking out in his garden, picking plants and vegetables. I was just like, how dare you? Like, I was just like, no. Like, he really was down home farming and just out here living his best life, living his life like it's golden, like he just didn't do what he did. I mean, this is 5 years after the fact, y'all. They went in there trying to question him, and he was just like, yeah, they aren't here. They no longer exist. And so they weren't trying to hear that. They got mad. Mainly Thor got mad. They cut his hand off, which didn't matter because there were literally no stones in it. So I'm like, what you cutting his hand off for? Like, it doesn't matter. And, you know, because he's so big and he is who he is, that didn't really faze him like that. They were questioning him and like, you know, you need to tell us where the stones are. And he was just like, they are no longer in existence. I had to use the stones to destroy the stones. And that's how powerful they are. And it's just like, wow. So it got to the point where, you know, Thor was not pleased with what he was hearing. He already was angry about the situation and hates Thanos. So he ended up cutting Thanos' head off. I was just like, oh, that's how we feel today. That's what we're going to do. All right. Y'all, he was just like, I don't understand what we're standing around here doing. Like, we're not getting anywhere. So what's the point of talking to him? He wasn't going to give us any answers. So whatever. I was just like, oh my gosh. Y'all, so another part that was interesting, when they actually went back in time, they were getting the stones when Tony and Captain America went back in time trying to get some stones. There was a part where they thought they were handing over something to the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they were actually handing it over to Hydra. And of course, at that time, they didn't know that. So future Captain America and Tony Stark, Iron Man, they went in there knowing that ahead of time, and they were trying to cut him off at the pass. And at first they weren't trying to hear that. And then Captain America was like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. You know, You don't have to worry about calling in any reinforcements and, you know, telling them what's going on. And he ended up whispering into somebody's ear, "Hail Hydra." So I was just like, oh my gosh. And see, I didn't read the comics. And so I didn't know nothing about that. Apparently there are some people in the comic book community that live for this, and they were so excited to hear this and went crazy because there actually is a Captain America that does have ties to Hydra in the comics, but he was only saying what he needed to say in order to get that stone. But y'all, of course, it ended up failing that time because Loki, you know, during that time was being typical Loki, and he messed up the mission. The Hulk was mad at that time, and he was the main reason why the mission was messed up, because he was super angry and couldn't keep anything under control. I remember how he was in that last movie. I was so tired of the Hulk. I was like, dang, you got all this anger, this frustration, all this strength, and you can't do nothing. You can't come out when you need to come out. You can't do nothing, never yet. Like, I was just like, you can't never do nothing when you need to do it. I was so angry at him in the last one, y'all. I could not. But anyway, y'all. Y'all, anybody who hasn't seen this movie, look, there was one part when they were fighting, and everybody got their, you know, their little piece of Thanos, and Captain Marvel started fighting him. Tell me why. Apparently, he headbutt her. And I didn't know what happened, because all I know is I just only knew for a fact that he tried to hit her and she didn't budge. And I didn't know what actually happened. But I was told what happened was that he headbutt her. She literally did not move. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, he literally had to take a stone. He had to take the power stone in order to punch her away from him. I was just like, oh my God. Like, that's how strong. She is amazing. So people need to stop trying to sleep on her like, oh, she ain't nobody. In all honesty, I thought that somehow she was just going to be the be-all, end-all, and she was going to be the one who brought Thanos to his knees, but it wasn't. So yeah, that was very much so interesting. Y'all, for anybody who is a Captain America fan, especially the people that were in the group that I saw it with, they were very sad about this outcome. So at the end of the movie, after everything happened, he ended up going back in time, returning the stones. And so what he did, you know, we thought that I actually thought this is what happened. The Hulk, he actually has turned into Professor Hulk. And, you know, that's actually something that's in the comics. So this is where he knows how to be both and control all of that, control everything he needs to control, right? So he's sitting up there and he was like, you know, are you ready? And he sends Captain America back into time, into different places that he needed to go, and to put the stones back so that time can do what it needs to, so that everything can be where it needs to be and nothing is out of place. And so, of course, because of how they're doing it, it's the same way as it was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, rather. Let me stop saying just Ant-Man, like it was just the Ant-Man movie. When they used that vortex thing, quantum realm. That's what it is, y'all. I'm sorry. It was the quantum realm. That's why I kept forgetting how to say it. So anyway, they sent him back through the quantum realm, and in real time, it's like he's gone for 5 seconds. When he's in there, he seems like he's in there for like a couple of hours or whatever it's going to be for that. So he did the countdown to have him be brought back, and he didn't see him. He didn't appear. And I was like, wait a minute. When he didn't appear, I instantly thought, okay, what he gonna do is he gonna just stay. Once he gonna make a point to have the last stone that he gotta put back be where the love of his life is, and he just gonna stay there and not come back. That's what I thought was gonna happen. But what happened was he did come back. And Falcon, I was about to say, what is his name? Falcon saw him and he was like, well, let me go over there and talk to him. He was sitting down in front of like this lake with his shield. And when I saw him, I looked a little close. I said, wait a minute. So y'all know how it is, that serum that he had in him. He was sitting like an old man. So I was like, wait a minute. So what did he do? What did he do? So he ended up living his life the way that he wanted to live it. He went back. We are to assume that he went back. He got that last dance with Peggy and, you know, lived out his life with her until she passed away. And so I was just like, Lord, you know, it was just a lot. And he basically passed on his shield to Falcon. And it was a very beautiful moment, but they finally had the camera in front of him, and you could see that he had allowed himself to get old and all this stuff. Like, I was just like, wow. So crazy, y'all. So crazy, the things that they do for these movies. I was just like, Lord. So, of course, from what we've been told, this was Stan Lee's last cameo. And when it happened, we were just like, oh my gosh. Oh, you know, so that was kind of a sad part. We saw an amazing part also that happened. Wait a minute. Oh, sorry. I had to look down and make sure that my notes were, you know, the little things I wanted to bring up. Y'all know Thor's hammer. Y'all know how that goes. Y'all know how his items go. He's the one who can wield it. He's Asgardian. Y'all, tell me why they were in the midst of fighting Thor. I mean, not Thor. Fighting. People are distracting me, Lord. They were in the middle of fighting Thanos. And then, you know, he was kind of, you know, getting, not really winded, but, you know, he's fighting. And then out of nowhere, he's kind of in a bind. And then I'm like, what is going on here? And then everybody goes crazy because Captain America is wielding his tools, his weapons. And, you know what I'm saying? It got to a point where he was just like, I always knew you were worthy. Because, you know, y'all know in the movies, Thor is always talking about, he knows, he don't know why, but he just already know. He knows that Captain America is worthy. Meaning that if you are good and pure and whatever else, and you possess that some kind of way, you are going to be able to wield it. Other people have tried. The Hulk has tried to pick it up and it ain't happened, at least in the movies that we've seen. But y'all, when he got those items in his hand, he went crazy. Okay, y'all, so I'm back. But anyway, what I wanted to continue saying in reference to the weapons, you know what I'm saying? I had been seeing Thor say to Captain America for the longest that he knows that he's worthy. And I'm just like, what is he talking about? You know, because like I said, I don't read the comics. And I had no idea what he was talking about when he kept saying worthy. And I'm like, what you mean worthy? And sure enough, he was able to get those weapons. And I was like, oh my God, like he was handling them as if he practiced since he was a child to fight with these items. And I was just like, oh my gosh, y'all, when I tell y'all the way that he fought off Thanos, you would think that this is going to be something that somebody is going to put in a video game. They need to put it in somebody's video game as a finishing move, or one of those little moves that you put in and you can like have a super move or whatever you want to call it. Y'all, I haven't been playing video games for a good little while. With good reason, but anyway. But yeah, that's how amazing it looked, y'all. I was just like, oh my gosh. So, you know, they ended up getting all the stones, right? The glove was created. They put the stones in them. The stones were set, ready to go. And when it came time to choose somebody to be the one who was going to do it, of course, Thor was like, oh, of course, I'm going to be the one that you're going to choose. That's the only logical, you know, choice. And, they had to let him know, like, nah, we understand you're Asgardian and all this other stuff, but you are not the appropriate choice. And the appropriate choice is Professor Hulk. His origin, and he's the only one who would really be able to sustain any injuries. You know what I'm saying? Will probably be the only one to survive, especially since Thanos was able to do it. He could barely do it himself. And that's how powerful it is. Like, people don't understand how powerful those stones are when they all come together and do what needs to be done. So they were able to get it on his hand eventually. After some time, he snapped. And people came back. Everybody came back and all this other stuff, right? And it was just so crazy that happened. And his arm, that whole side of his body is just tore down. I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I did not realize it was going to be that terrible. Because when Thanos did it, it didn't do all that. And I was just like, oh my gosh. You know what I'm saying? It was to the point, it really did almost kill him. And it's like, really? So, you know what I'm saying? The 50% of life that was lost before was restored. So that was amazing. And I was just like really, really shook. So back to Captain America. They end up having this sequence where, they were in the midst of fighting, and it just seemed like, here we go, we're going down this road again, they about to lose again. And all of the people who had been dusted appeared. They all transported to the battle. And it was because of Doctor Strange, of course, for them to be able to transport. And, it was just, and then the way they did it, right? Because, they had, how they do. They had that music come on. It's like, all right, here go the defeat music. The music was coming on. And then all of a sudden, I didn't hear it I didn't know who it was. But you know how they have, like, the little comms? Somebody said something to Captain America. And he was just like, what? Y'all, out of the first portal comes T'Challa, his sister, and his what did she call first general? I was like, oh my god. But yeah, everybody else follows suit. Like, all of his people, every single person, every single hero that was dusted, they all came out of these portals left and right to help fight this battle. And within that battle, they had moments where they were basically playing keep away with the gauntlet. I don't know, I kept saying glove, I'm sorry y'all, with the Infinity Gauntlet, the remade one, if you will. And of course, they're trying to keep it away from Thanos, and Spider-Man had it last. And they were playing keep away, and then it got to the point where he just was trying to keep it safe while all these people were battling all around him. And then Captain Marvel walked up to him, and she basically was like, well, I'll take it from there. And so he was like, well, how are you gonna get it through all those people? Because like a whole lot of Thanos's folks, his army and stuff came from out of nowhere, and it was just looking like, I don't know how you gonna get it where you need it to go. And so all of these women, if this was woman power coming together, they had all of these people. They had Valkyrie, they had oh my god, I don't know why. Not Widow. Or was it Widow? No, not Black Widow. I don't know why. Scarlet Witch. They had Iron Maiden. Who else? Basically, all these women, they all came from out of nowhere, and they all were gonna help lead the charge so that she can get that gauntlet where it needed to go. And it was amazing. And I was like, yes, y'all better do that. Oh, but the amazing thing that we have to note is he saw all, Captain America saw all these people coming from out of nowhere, and he was overcome with joy, happiness, and all that stuff. But it got to the point, you know what he said? Avengers, assemble, and I was done. So, you know, all that fighting had been going on, and I think I mentioned earlier in this video that somebody in the theater that I was in recorded the time, and they said that the last fight sequence was 1 hour and 15 minutes. So at the end of the fighting, when all the fighting was going on and Tony was actually able to get the stones away from Thanos and trick him into thinking that he had it so he could snap, but he didn't. He had it actually, and he ended up putting it on, had it on, and everything, you know, interacted with his hand and his arm. And he simply told him, I am inevitable. I am Iron Man. And snapped. I was so here for that scene, for that moment, that I completely forgot. Whoa, wait a minute. You're human. You have all this money. Yes, your suits do amazing things, but you are human. You don't possess the type of strength and everything else that is needed in order to withstand what is going to happen once you snap, after you've snapped. And like I said, I was just so overcome and just so happy that he had the gauntlet and snapped that I completely forgot that this is about to end. Like, for real end. Like, Iron Man is gone end. So he ended up doing that and passing away. And before he passed away, Spider-Man, y'all, it was basically the reverse of what happened in the first one, Infinity War, when Spider-Man was in the process of being dusted, getting dusted. And this time we see him where it seems like he's getting dusted, but what it is, you know, his body is severely damaged from him possessing all of that power. So Spider-Man was like, please don't do this, Mr. Stark. Don't do this. I was just like, oh my God, he about to make me cry. Don't do this. So he was in his feelings, and then his wife came over there as Iron Maiden and told him, you know, straight up told him, you can rest now, Tony. I was so, you know, I kept holding my breath, and when she said that, I was about to cry, because a lot of times that just means you can let go. You've done all that you could do here. And she literally was like, we got it from here. We gonna be all right, meaning her and the kids, and the baby and everybody else. But, you know, namely her and Morgan, the little girl. And I was just like, oh my gosh, don't nobody have time for this, y'all. It was so much. It was such an emotional moment. I was like, oh God. So y'all, at the funeral, oh Lord, the way they had it when they was out there, they just kept panning over to various people, whether they were in a group or if they were by themselves, and it was just a lot. And I was just like, Lord. And of course, the last person they showed was Nick Fury. And I was like, I wonder how much they paid him just to show his face for 0.2 seconds. Because we know he got dusted, and then he was there for the funeral. I mean, of course he was going to be there for the funeral. Like, what else was he going to be doing? Oh, Lord, y'all. I was just so tired, because when he was in space, as we've all kept seeing the trailer where they kept showing him in space. I forget if at any point in this video I said this, but he was in space. And it was basically showing what happened before Captain Marvel actually appeared. He was out there in space. He was losing oxygen, and she appeared, and she ended up, you know, saving him, bringing him back before he was going to actually pass away from not having oxygen. So this ended up being interesting because they were basically having a moment to grieve him and they put it's this thing that Pepper gave him that had proof that Tony Stark had a heart, keepsake, and she actually put it on something and they let it just float away. It was really, really cool. I was like, man, it was too much. So something else that I found to be interesting, not necessarily because of what happens, is because of some of the reactions that I saw in the theater. So I think I mentioned earlier how Captain was old when he went back in time. He came back and, he was now an old man because he wasn't, I guess he wanted to just live his life and grow old, or as old as he could, and just lead a normal life. So he did something about that. I know in the comics I've heard about there was a person called the Nail or something like that did something to mess that up, and it actually ended a terrible way. And this was a way better way for him to kind of retire, so to speak. But yeah. Anyway, the Falcon. Basically, the reins were passed over to him, and he was going to be Captain America now, because of course he cannot do it anymore because of how he is now, which is old and is probably gonna die at any random moment. Like, he's up there in age. You can look at him and tell he was up there. And so Falcon was like overwhelmed and I guess happy at the same time. But the reactions that I saw some of the people in the theater have to that, they looked at each other and they were just like there couldn't have been a black Captain America, even though I've heard for the longest that there have been, that it's been passed on actually to Falcon in the comic, and it's been, Bucky's had it before, and you know what I'm saying, and black, that's why when stuff like that happen and people get angry when certain characters are now of another race that they're not used to seeing on the screen. And it's like, y'all do know in alternate universes, these people are other nationalities and, just random colors and creeds and whatever else, you know what I'm saying, you want to throw out there, since everybody is not necessarily human. So y'all, I was just like, already, like, I knew it as soon as that happened. I was like, I wonder if somebody gonna say something, because y'all saw the uproar. I know you've seen all the uproar for the longest. Years ago, this has happened when there was speculation of Donald Glover playing Spider-Man. People were all mad, but then Into the Spider-Verse happened and that movie did so well. And y'all know what color he was. Y'all know he had a black daddy and his mama was not black. And it was just like a lot of people took it exceptionally well. So it's like, I don't understand why everything has to be so racially motivated to the point of where you just don't see what you're supposed to see. This is entertainment. We should be enjoying this movie and not focusing on the fact that, oh, he black. Captain America shouldn't be black. We got a black man that people are looking at as if, they're looking at him like as if he is the president of the United States and running the country, and basically the way it was when Obama was in office. And, a lot of people didn't like that, but they were just like, anything is better than a woman, so whatever. But y'all, I digress. I think I've discussed when oh yeah. But anyway, yeah, of course, we are supposed to infer that Captain America did give her, Peggy Carter, her last dance after returning, as he promised her. So I think that's amazing that he was able to do that. Like, you could tell, oh my gosh, he had a moment where he went back in time and he saw her somewhere and she was like leading the charge, of course, and he was just so awestruck. He just looked at her like really enamored by her. I was just like, yes, I love I love the way he looked at her. I was just like, wow, that is so amazing. So yeah. So speaking of when he went back in time to get that stone, he saw, he wasn't the only person that was seen. We also saw Tony Stark's father and Jarvis in that time period. Like, they ended up having to go and get that, what they call it, that pin, because they were running out of them in order to be able to jump and do all the other stuff they were doing through the, I always say vortex. Y'all know what I mean, the, what realm. But yeah, y'all. He went back. He had to do that because they ended up, since that situation happened before, where Loki and the Hulk in that older time frame in the past messed up the plan for them to get the stone, they ended up having to go another route and kind of kill two birds with one stone. Y'all can't think of the name of that pen, but y'all know what I'm talking about. But anyway, they went back and got a couple of handfuls of those so that they could, you know, continue to do what they needed to do in order to get all the stones. So, like I said, they saw Jarvis and they saw Tony's dad. Tony realized that it was his father, y'all. It was so crazy. And I was just like, wow, everything really came full circle for him. So I imagine that it wasn't that hard for him to just kind of let go, because he had accomplished so much in that time frame, and I was so happy for him, y'all. I don't know if y'all heard or not, but I think it's the Russo brothers. They have announced that they are completely done with everything after this movie. Like, they're done. And a lot of people are in their feelings because you've seen where this has taken us. So yeah. Let's see what else. Let me see. Well, this is interesting. This is an interesting fact that I actually didn't know. I saw somewhere. Did y'all know that Black Panther at one point in time actually wielded the Infinity Gauntlet? Yeah. So it was in the comics, of course, and the comics, they look amazing the way they had it set up. So I was like, wow. And I forgot if I said this. I'm just gonna end on this. I completely forgot if I said this or not, but if you didn't see the end credits, which weren't any, something happened. And I was like, no, there has to be a reason why this happened. I didn't know what it was, but I was determined to find out. I was like, somebody has to have released it somewhere. I know somebody has to have done it. Somebody did, and I'm glad they did. So at the end of this movie, it goes off. There are no scenes. Nothing has been filmed for us to see to lead up to another movie. No other random character development from somewhere. Nothing like that has happened. What has happened is we hear a noise. And I was like, I heard a bell. I don't know if it's a bell or what it was. And come to find out, it was Iron Man when he was actually building his first suit. And it was basically like a culmination of everything that has happened and kind of to close out this chapter in the MCU. So I really enjoyed this movie. Hopefully, if you have not seen this movie and I have kind of, you know, thrown some things out there that interest you about this movie, please go and support it. It is amazing. It was worth the wait. It really was. It was a really long wait, but it was worth it. I thoroughly enjoyed watching it. Your emotions will be all over the place. I don't believe I said every single thing, but I said enough of the spoilers. Just in case I forgot to say, everybody who was dead before the snap is in fact dead outside of Loki. From what other people have said, they feel as though when they went back in time, he went to an alternate universe and is there. That particular Loki. But ultimately, he's dead. Also, outside of Tony Stark, Nat is dead because she ended up sacrificing herself. So, just in case that wasn't clear earlier, just know 2 of the heroes are now deceased that were here before the snap. So, and well, after the initial snap. So anyway, again, I hope y'all enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think down in the comments. What was your favorite part if you did see it? And what did you hate? Did you cry? Did you yell? How did you feel? Did you have any crying babies in your theater? I'm so glad we didn't. Anyway, y'all, I hope y'all have a great evening, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.